So there's one thing that you need to know when using large language models, whether that's for ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, or any large language model, and that is prompting. If you don't know how to prompt, then you are never going to get the results that you want with large language models. In this video, you're going to learn the basics of prompting so you can get consistent and accurate results fast. My name is 𝗃𝗏𝘆 and I've been using AI tools and ChatGPT since the very beginning, since they came out. And I've used these AI tools to help me build businesses such as an IT agency, help build Etsy stores, affiliate marketing business, and help me create membership sites. So I'm going to walk you through 8 beginner-friendly tips and techniques that anyone can use, whether you are a seasoned large language model user or you've never used a large language model before. And I'm going to provide examples and keep everything short and practical so you can apply these tips right now. And at the very end, I'm going to provide a prompt to help you improve your prompts. And this prompt is going to include all the tips that we talked about in this video, and it'll be very important that you understand all these tips and techniques. So stick around to the end of the video and I'll go over that prompt for you and give it away for free. So if all of that sounds good to you, let's get started. Okay, so we're at the dreaded blank screen. Okay, so I've opened up OpenAI's ChatGPT. You can follow along with these prompting tips in any large language model. I'd recommend using one of the big 3, ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, or Google's Gemini. You don't need to get hung up on which large language model to use, especially as a beginner. Really anyone will work. Sure, some of them have strengths and weaknesses and can have more features, but it's just best to just get into any tool that you're comfortable using, even if it's as simple as you like the interface better. So we have a blank screen here and we're ready to prompt. But what do we prompt? Well, first, what is a prompt? A prompt is basically just instructions that you give a large language model. It's like asking someone a question or giving them a task. So the prompt is your input and the response is the output. So a prompt can be as simple as, what is the capital of Iceland? Reykjavik. And with prompts, they can be all sorts of lengths, all sorts of questions. You can ask multiple questions in a prompt. You can give information in a prompt, then ask questions. So of course, the reason we're using AI is to get answers, to be more productive, to make money, and just overall be better at whatever we're doing. So often I hear from people that, the AI isn't cooperating, it's not giving them the appropriate information, it's not doing what I want it to do. And it's true that these large language models are still limited, at least as of today, and they're just it's not gonna solve world hunger, a large language model. But oftentimes it's the prompting that's used and how you're instructing the AI to perform certain tasks for you and the questions that you ask it. So it's really overwhelming just seeing a blank screen or just seeing this bar, knowing that you can type in anything. So this brings us to our tips. And tip number 1 is using precise and unambiguous language. This is the number 1 tip that I could give you. You want to eliminate any ambiguity or any confusion at all. You want to make sure the instructions that you give the large language model are about the task, the output, and the format, and nothing else, and be direct and concise about it. So let's go over some examples of what I mean here. So we could say, create a outline for my YouTube video on AI. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this a prompt. And this is a very vague prompt that I gave it. So it's going off and it's creating an outline. It's giving me the hook, the introduction, giving me the time frame to record these in. But is this actually what I want? Is this covering exactly what I want? Not really. Did I say in the prompt how I want the outline to be formatted? Did I talk about what I want the video to be about? Just talking about AI is very general. It can be anything. So this is very ambiguous. It's not concise. It's not direct. Okay, so let's create a more precise and unambiguous prompt that gets me exactly what I want. So we can say, create an outline, create a 5-point outline for YouTube video that talks about how AI is shaping the workforce. Each point will provide a concise summary of what I should talk about with a hook. So here we have a prompt that's giving more information. What is the outline about? what should be included in the outline, 5-point outline. It should include concise summary for each of the points in the outline. So we can keep going with even more information based off of what we want. So it's really important to note that whatever you're trying to accomplish, think about what you want the end result to be. Write down just quick bullet points, or just think about them in your head and include those in the prompt, because the large language model cannot read your mind. Depending on what you're putting in, yes, it could kind of read your mind and it does a good job of inferring what you want, but if you're not providing this concise information, you're always going to leave this more up to chance. So we'll go ahead and click enter here. So this was a much better prompt. This still can be improved even more to give it even more context and information on what you want. Okay, so we have some bullet points in here. Open with bold statement, show quick clips, tease the main idea. Number 2, 3, 4, 5. So this looks good. Explain the future isn't AI versus humans, but AI with humans. So you can see this is more specific to what we want. Okay, and that brings us to our next tip, and that is to make sure the prompts are as short as possible and being as information dense as possible. This is going to yield you the best results. So you can have prompts that are just paragraphs and paragraphs long and contain many instructions, but oftentimes those prompts, especially depending on how they're structured and the words that are used in them, they can have a little bit more variability in the output. And of course, we want to get our precise answers with everything. So keeping our prompts short is best here. So let's go over an example of something that would be a little bit too long and too much information and just could be shortened. Okay, so here is a prompt that just has too much information, isn't concise, isn't direct. I was wondering if you could possibly help me out with something. I'm trying to learn about the topic of machine learning and I'm really curious about it. Could you help maybe explain to me what machine learning is all about? I'd really appreciate it if you give me a basic overview of the concept. So on the surface, this might seem like a problem that's okay, but it's really not really instructive. What exactly is a basic overview of it? What exactly does that mean? What machine learning is all about? That doesn't tell you exactly what you want to learn about it. Do you want to learn the really nuts and bolts of it? Do you just want to understand just about it? Okay, so we can run this and it'll definitely give us an answer, definitely give us information about machine learning. What is it? Simple example, how it learns. So it's giving us some good information, but we're not getting exactly what we want. It's also a little just vague. I was wondering if you could possibly help me out with something. There's no need for this sort of information. And when you're creating even longer prompts than this and asking multiple things, saying things like this could hurt your output. So let's go ahead and create a prompt that's more optimized, short, and is information dense. You can say explain machine tools, what it is, how it works, and common applications 2025. Okay, so you can see we're getting a lot more precise information, types of machine learning, common practices in application machine learning. So we're getting a more comprehensive view of everything. It's giving us a nice big picture as well. And compare this to the one above. So it just gives us what machine learning is, how machine learning works, steps 1 through 4. We can also look at this example and say, okay, if there's something that we like, so having the large language model explain it in simple terms, we can also add that to our prompt. We can say include a section that explains this in simple terms and how I could explain it to anyone else. So you see just how concise, there's no fluff. It asks exactly what we want to know. Explain machine learning fundamentals, what it is, how it works, and common applications in the year 2025. Okay, the next tip here is to apply a clear prompt structure. So of course we can go into a prompt and just type in anything that we want, but having a clear structure where we're telling it exactly what we want the output to be. And we also want to provide an example if possible, but I'll leave that for another tip. So we'll just go over the context, the output, and the rules. So let's go ahead and create a prompt that contains all 3 of these things. So the context, who is the target audience? What is the situation? What does the large language model need to know in order to give the best result? So let's say we're creating a blog article and we want to create a prompt that will generate a title for our blog article. So let's first start by giving it context. And we're going to do this in 2 sentences. First, we're going to give the large language model a persona, and then we're going to give it the context of the blog article. So we'll say, you are an expert blog article title creator. So we're giving the large language model a persona that they can take on. That way it knows who it's supposed to be. And then we'll provide the context. I'm creating a blog article about in the workforce and how it is shaping the future. This article is, so I'll add one more piece of information, just another sentence. The article is targeted at office workers between the ages 30 and 50. Okay, so there's some context, and this context can be whatever the situation is for your particular query that you want to give for the prompt that you're giving. So I just gave a little bit of information. So you are an expert blog article title creator. I'm creating a blog article about AI in the workforce and how it is shaping. The article is targeted at office workers between ages 30 and 50. So really specific, really information dense, telling the large language model exactly what to be, giving the exact context that we need. Okay, and then we'll actually give the prompting part of it. Create 5 different blog article titles, create titles for this article. Okay, so this is also giving a bit of information about the output. Now we'll talk about the output itself, which is the next part. So the output, number each title, create a bulleted list here, put each title in parentheses. And then we could say next to each title, provide a reasoning for this particular title. So it gives us information on why it chose this particular article title. So that's our output. That's what we want it to look like. And again, usually I would give an example here, but I'm going to leave that for another tip. Example meaning an example of the output, what that looks like. Then we have our actual prompt. Then we have the output that we want, and then we'll give it rules. The title will be no longer than, say, no longer than 50 characters. Don't use common words that large language model use, like discover, explore, etc. So a lot of times large language models use a lot of the same words, and you can tell how that's written by a large language model. So you can go ahead and list out more of the words here. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to include etc. But again, it'd be better to be more explicit, be more direct, and tell exactly what not to use. We also are saying don't use common words that large language models use. Okay, so those are our rules, and we can see we have all 5 of them. And it also asks us a question at the end, asking us for a subtitle as well, which is nice. So you can see we're getting a lot more specific information outputted from the large language model when we give it rules. So this can be applied to anything that you're asking from a large language model. Yes, this will take a little more time to construct the prompt, but it's just going to be more useful and it's going to pay dividends in the future. It's funny, I remember when first using artificial intelligence and learning how to prompt and just having the feeling of I might as well just do this manually if I'm going to have to put in all these rules and everything and output formats in large language models. But it saves so much time compared to the alternative. So always just keep that in mind when you're getting frustrated, when you're learning how to prompt and not getting the output that you're wanting to from large language models. Okay, and that brings us to number 4. And that is to avoid conflicting instructions. I had this a lot in my prompts when I first started. Conflicting instructions just always don't yield the best results with large language models. So what are some examples of this? So if you say, provide a detailed summary. These are kind of at odds with each other. The summarization, then you want it to be detailed as well. So that implies more information. Another example could be you're instructing the large language model to be creative and original, but follow this template exactly. So then you're saying for it to be original and creative, but then you're giving it all these constraints. Or another common one is say, be concise, but make sure to be detailed about every point in the summary or video as possible. Or saying something like provide a quick but in-depth analysis. So you always want to avoid contradicting yourself in the prompt. And this will give you better results and better outputs. Okay, so here's just one bad example. We'll go ahead and run this prompt. Write a casual, formal email to my boss about taking time off. Okay, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to let you know that I'm planning to take some time off. I've made sure my current projects are on track and I'll make sure everything is in good shape before I'm out. Please let me know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and then here's a good prompt, a more non-conflicting prompt. Write a professional yet friendly email to my boss requesting time off. So these don't conflict, professional and friendly. So really subtle in what it's changing here, But when you're running, let's say, a lot of prompts on a lot of different scenarios, or you have a much longer prompt, this can make a huge impact. So just one example of where you want to avoid conflicting information in your prompts. Okay, and then tip number 5 here is to use examples in your prompt of what you want the output to be. So not every time you have a prompt you'll want to include example, but many times you will because you're looking for a specific output. So ideally it's best if you include one example. You can include more, but overall large language models seem to work best when you have one example. Okay, so let's go back to our example where we're creating blog article titles. So we had our context up here, then we had the actual instructions for it, what to do, and then we had the output, and then we have the rules. And now we can add an example. So as an example, we can be really detailed about this. We can say blog title, and we can have like an emoji on here. And we can tell the large language model exactly what we want the output to look like. So that way it's going to be exactly like this format. So we can go ahead and run this. Okay, so you can see this is exactly what we typed in here. We had the parentheses, and then we have the brain emoji, and then the reason. So it's giving us exact output format that we want. And we can take this farther. We can just be more specific about, what we want, what else to be here. So also make sure that's included in your output as well. So, if you wanted something else in the output, let's say you wanted what age group is best for, and then down here we can include this. Okay, include that here as well. There we go. So we have our title, we have the reason, and we have the age group. So it's saying 30 through 50. So this appeals to most of them, and we can see that one of them is 30 to 45. And we can be even more specific with this as well. So maybe this wasn't even specific enough. We could say what age group this title is best for, include a range between 5 ages. That way we get more specific ages for the titles, who they're best for. So you can really see how this really can be fine-tuned to exactly what you want, and output examples, providing those output examples like this in your prompt are really important. Okay, and then this brings us to our last tip here, and that is to use consistent tone instructions. So with this prompt, we can also now start including what tone we want the AI to output. So let's go ahead and grab our prompt. I'm going to paste it in. Then we can include another section called tone. So the tone, again, is do you want it to be more analytical? And we can have the tone be output in multiple ways. We can tell the tone of, we can tell that large language model to have the title be in this specific tone, or we can tell the large language model to have its output and how it outputs the information to us and how it talks to us with the reasoning, with its intro sentence. Like it says, here's a set of 5 tailored blog article titles following your format. We can tell its response to be in a specific tone. So we'll say, we'll talk about the titles, a Spartan tone of voice. So we can have all sorts of tones of voices. You can ask ChatGPT or any large language model, list out the different tones that we can go with. I like using a Spartan tone a lot, because Spartan tone means that it's going to be more pragmatic, more direct, more concise with its output. So I always want that kind of pragmatic approach to it. And this works well for just a lot of responses that you have. And for this, we're just gonna have our titles be that Spartan tone of voice. And we can change this again. We can just say funny or comical tone. The titles will follow a humorous. Your new coworker never takes lunch. AI won't steal your job yet. Meet Bob, the AI who doesn't complain. So you can see how we can take different angles with the titles, and we can have a mix also. We can further improve this prompt. We can say, provide both a Spartan and a humorous tone of voice. We can take this even farther and say, provide a tone of voice, Spartan tone of voice that appeals to ages 40 through 50, 30 through 35. So we can really segment this out and go as detailed as we want to with our prompts. It really is about creativity with your prompts. And that stems from knowing exactly what you want the end result to be. Sure, we can go ahead and continue prompting and we can get ideas for what to create, but we need to have some sort of basic idea of what we want the output to be first, and then we can iterate on that. Okay, so those are the tips that you can use to improve your prompts. Today, you can mix and match these tips. You can use all of them in one specific prompt that you're making. It really all depends on exactly what you're prompting and what you want your output to be. So just applying these tips to your prompts will already make a world of difference with the outputs that you're getting, and you'll start to see much more high quality outputs, and you'll start to see more results in what you're trying to do. So if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, I want to thank you. We are now on to the bonus tip. As promised, I'm going to go ahead and go over the prompt that improves your prompts. Getting really meta there. So let's go ahead and open up. Okay, so I'm going to provide a link to this prompt in the description of this video so you can easily copy it and use it. So let's go ahead and paste in the prompt here and just go through it. And this will cover a lot of the points that we covered just now. So we have the context. You are an AI language model expert tasked with improving a user-provided prompt for use with large language models. Your goal is to enhance the prompt's effectiveness, clarity, and ability to generate high-quality responses from LLMs. So we're giving it this persona and telling it what it needs to do, which is exactly what is needed for a prompt. So the prompt to improve prompts includes the tips on good prompts. If that makes any sense? Okay, so to improve this prompt, follow these guidelines. So giving it exactly what to follow, okay? Number 1 here, use precise and unambiguous language. I'll just go over the main points. So we talked about that. That was our first tip. Optimize for brevity and information density. We talked about in our second tip as well. And just gives more information about that, what we talked about. Then apply a clear prompt structure. That was number 3 that we talked about. The context, the output format, the rules, examples. And then we have minimize prompt length for higher performance. So similar to the optimize for brevity and information density, but just clarifying that even more. And then number 5, avoid conflicting instructions. That's removing, and yeah, that was another tip that we talked about. And then number 6, state output requirements explicitly. So exactly the format that you want it in, whether it's a CSV code, whether you want just specific rows, if you want specific emojis in somewhere, if you want a line break somewhere, just including that example. Okay, and then state output requirements explicitly, so how you want the information output. So we talk about that as well. And then we have the use one shot or few shot examples for clarity, so always including that example of what it should look like. And then the using the consistent tone instructions. So here we instructed to use the Spartan tone of voice. Okay, and then we have some more instructions. Analyze the original prompt, consider its strengths and weaknesses based on these guidelines, then rewrite the prompt to address any issues and enhance its effectiveness. After rewriting the prompt, explain the improvements you made and how they align with the guidelines above. This is also really important. Having it explain will make sure that it's not hallucinating and it's taking into account the points that were covered right here, and it's going to give us information of why it changed it and how it changed it to these specific points. And then we're giving it the output. So we're saying provide the improved prompt in this format here. It's kind of HTML format, and then explanation as well. Okay, so here is the prompt to improve. So it's very verbose, this prompt. So it's a really bad prompt here. That's the whole idea, is just to show you an example of how this prompt to improve prompts really works. Hey there, I was just thinking, could you possibly help me out? I'm working on this project at work and I really need some assistance. So basically I need you to write a real detailed summary, but keep it short, you know? It's about artificial intelligence and machine learning and all that stuff. Make it super technical with all the complicated terms and everything, but also make sure my grandmother could understand it. So conflicting, I already see there's conflicting language. It's very verbose, not very direct language. Oh, and be creative and interesting, but also stick to just the facts, no opinions or anything like that. So a lot of conflicting information. I need to be comprehensive and cover everything about AI, but I only have like 2 paragraphs worth of space. Can you make it professional and formal, but also fun and casual? So the instructions are all over. I don't really understand the tone of it, and it's based exactly on this Wikipedia article I'm thinking of. Let's change this slightly because I'm not going to add a Wikipedia article, but base it exactly on what a Wikipedia article would say. Thanks again. So yeah, pretty terrible prompt. Doesn't follow any of the rules that we just go over, any of the tips, techniques that we went over. So let's first actually run this without. Okay, so not bad. So let's now go ahead and improve the prompt and then run that. So let's put in the prompt here and then put in the prompt to improve and go ahead and improve it. So we can see it's nice and formatted now. It's in our little HTML. Improved prompt, context, instructions, output format, rules, example output. Okay, then it gives an explanation as well. So this is really good. Giving us an example as well. So for this, I would say the example output can just say just 2 paragraphs. It doesn't have to give an actual example of what a good output for this would look like because we don't exactly know just yet. We just know that we'd want 2 paragraphs. So you could put 2 paragraphs in quotation marks. So for this, I wouldn't actually give the example. I'm going to change that when we prompt it as well. So this is giving us exactly what we want. You can see the user needs a concise, high-quality summary of artificial intelligence and machine learning suitable for both technical and general audiences. The summary should be informative, accurate, and professional. Write a 2-paragraph summary of AI and machine learning that is technically accurate with proper terminology, accessible to a layperson, fact-based, avoided opinions or speculation, engaging and readable while maintaining a professional tone, original in wording but factually aligned with a Wikipedia-style description. So it includes everything that we want, concise, very straightforward, descriptive, output format, plain text, 2 paragraphs, each no more than 5 to 6 sentences, include key concepts, applications, and distinctions between AI and machine learning. And the rules do not include personal opinions or anecdotes, avoid overly casual or playful language, keep it concise and comprehensive within the 2-paragraph limit. And then example output, so go ahead and copy this now. So this, I don't think we need the example output, because oftentimes, example output is if, we want it like we did with the blog title. We want the title, parentheses, then the reasoning with the emoji, something more like that. So we'll have the AI really fill that out. Oh, and those of you who are wondering why I have the Get Plus, I do not have the plus on this account. Also, I use ChatGPT in a wrapper called Typing Mind. I'll definitely create a video on that later. So you're probably wondering why I don't have a pro account. I use the API in a large language model wrapper, so I can use all the different large language models. Okay, so here we have our prompt. Go ahead and just input it right now. Okay, and then we can go ahead and have a look at this. Okay, so look at this. Okay, so it's okay. I mean, it's not bad. It did a good job of inferring what we wanted, even though there was a lot of conflicting information and it was all over the place. This is more straightforward. So what we can actually do is we can actually compare them here by asking AI. Compare this previous output from a prompt that had ambiguous language and didn't provide a grade from 1 to 10 at a college level consists of the 2 paragraphs. Here is the previous output from the other prompt. Okay. Seven out of 10. And how would you rate this one now? The prompt from earlier in the chat. So you give it a 9 out of 10 compared to a 7 out of 10. Clarity and accessibility, structured explanation, technical accuracy, balance for audience, professional tone, giving us areas of improvement, and as opposed to this, ambiguity and conflicting information, structure, accessibility, length and conciseness. So you can see it does provide better information. So again, I'll go ahead and leave a link to this prompt so you can use this. Use it for all your prompts. When you're creating your prompts, don't just rely on this prompt to reprompt your prompt. Try and practice getting better at prompts, understanding how to use all these tips and techniques, and you'll go a long way with it. Understanding how to use all these techniques in there, you're just gonna get better results when you use the prompt to reprompt it. Because if you're including all these conflicting information and it's not clear and concise, that reprompts might not give you what exactly you want. While it may be clear and concise in the new prompt, it might not be exactly what you want it to be. So keep that in mind. So thank you for making it this far. Went over a lot of information. Again, a lot of the basics of prompting. You apply these basic techniques and tips, and you are going to go a long way with prompting. You're going to be able to go way farther than a lot of other people that are using AI tools. And with a little bit of practice, you're going to be able to see a lot more results when using your AI tools.